న్యూస్ అప్డేట్ కోసం ఛానల్ ను సబ్స్క్రైబ్ చేయండి. పక్కనే ఉండే బెల్ సింబల్ ను క్లిక్ చేయడం మర్చిపోకండి. అప్డేట్స్ ని మిస్ అవ్వకండి.
Morning, you can call me Ram, please. I'm not a full-fledged minister now. I'm a caretaker minister, so.
Well, thank you, Ram. Yes, as your term as the first-time IT minister is coming, and you're seeking an aggressive re-election, how would you rate yourself for the work you've done so far over the last 4 years?
You know, it's unfair. I asked you to be tough on me. I asked you to ask all the tough questions when we were having a brief chat before we got onto the podium. I asked Ramna to be as tough as he can be. I wanted him to do an Arnab Goswami and kind of grill me a bit as well.
I don't think I can rise up to that level, but we'll try.
I know your music has always been soft. Your specialty has been
Thank you.
Soft melody, soft rock, I guess. So, to rate myself, I think it would be unjust because I am in the middle of an election, hardly 1 week away from people deciding my fate. So therefore, if I keep patting myself in the back, that would be grossly unfair. I think your work should speak for itself, and I am very, very confident, let me put it that way, that we are going to be elected very emphatically on 11th of December. So I hope that irrespective of what I think about myself, I just hope that people will vote us back and give us another opportunity to serve them better.
Okay, let me just say, I think you've done a brilliant job. Okay, there's been an influx of companies coming into Hyderabad. We have Google, we got Facebook, we got Qualcomm. Intel for the first time is jumping into the city. What is your secret sauce? What makes Hyderabad so special for all these multinationals to hover around the state over the last 4 years and the immense development that has happened in this state? What do you think is your secret sauce? What do you think is the one differential that we have that attracts these companies to our city?
I think it's 3 or 4 things. Firstly, India itself is a very compelling, business opportunity that nobody in the world wants to ignore at this point. So when you've made that decision broadly about India, for example, you mentioned a Google or an Apple or a Facebook or even Intel or Qualcomm. Anyone, when they're looking at different parts of the world, firstly, India is a very compelling business opportunity. And when you start looking inside India as to which location could be better than others, let me put it that way, I think Hyderabad stands out for a number of reasons. One, I think the great talent pool there is in Hyderabad is one of the one of the most important factors as to why people are gravitating to us. For example, if you look at Bangalore, 40% of Bangalore's workforce today, in fact, has origins in Hyderabad or to the 2 Telugu states. So therefore, the talent pool is number one, I would say. Secondly, I think Hyderabad has got some things going for it which no other city in India has. In fact, Hyderabad, if you look at it, geographically, we're bang in the middle of the country and we are very, very well connected to the rest of the world. We are just one hop away from anywhere in the world. And great climate, great weather, good government, stable policies, economic stability, political stability, and above all, I think our biryani also, I think, helps.
Yeah, that's true. With all this influx and all the wonderful people coming into the city, the office space has grown from 2 million to 9 million square feet. That's a huge leap. What this means is there's a lot more people coming into the state and a lot more people coming into the city. There's a lot of migrant population that's coming in as skilled labor. People who are coming in and there's a lot of influx of population. I see this as a huge challenge. What are you going to do to overcome this challenge where so many people are coming into the city? I know there's lots of infrastructural development that's going on, but from your point of view, what are the top 3 things we should be doing to kind of focus on how we face this challenge?
Well, Ramna, it's a good problem to have. In fact, a problem of plenty is always a good thing. So, in fact, besides what you mentioned, 9 million square feet, currently in Hyderabad, we have nearly 40 million workspace under construction. And a lot of it is, in fact, being lapped up very, very quickly. According to JLL, CBRE and Cushman and all the other top property managers of the world, Hyderabad, in fact, is one of the fastest growing locations, not just in India, but in the world as well in terms of commercial space being lapped up. It has been growing at that pace. The challenge though is on two counts. One, our urban centers, Hyderabad and other cities, are extremely important on 2-3 levels. One, today if you look at Hyderabad, last time when Satya and Adilabad was here in town, we were having a brief conversation before we actually did a public appearance together. So I mentioned to him that 45 to 50% of Telangana's GSDP comes from Hyderabad. He told me something astounding. He said, this just doesn't apply to Telangana alone as a state. In fact, Microsoft as an organization, while it operates in about 180 odd countries, 70% of their revenues also come from 80 cities in the world. So our urban pockets that we see today across the world are our economic growth engines. Today, Telangana, for example, is being driven by the growth, is being fueled by the opportunities, by the expansion, economic expansion that is happening ever so rapidly in Hyderabad. Likewise, if you look at India as a country as well, majority of our GDP actually comes from urban pockets in our country: Bombay, Delhi, Kolkata, Chennai, Hyderabad, Bangalore, Pune, Ahmedabad. All of these, top 10 cities in India, I'm pretty confident will account for nearly half of the GDP of this country. Now, having said that, the big challenge governments have in India, we are playing catch up without a question. In fact, the expansion that has been happening in Hyderabad, in every other city in India, be it the office space, be it the ever-growing real estate market, the challenge is keeping up, building more, and making ourselves better. There's a famous line by John F. Kennedy, and in fact, if you go to Nitin Gadkari's office, you see it right there on top. It goes something like this. I'm paraphrasing a bit. It says, America is not great, because of, America's highways are not great because it is rich. America is rich because of its great highways. The point I'm trying to make is infrastructure, in fact, if you plan for it, if you make sure that you build for the future as well, then your cities, your country, your state can, simultaneously start growing on an even keel. So while Hyderabad is consistently, in fact, those of you who travel outside, if you travel outside of Hyderabad to various other pockets in India, then you would appreciate this better. Hyderabad today is consistently rated as the city with the best quality of living, as a city with the best infrastructure among Indian cities. I mean, I know we all crib in Hyderabad that, our traffic is bad, our, certain things about Hyderabad need improvement, etc. But if you travel more outside, if you go around, I think then you'll start appreciating, and I don't take comfort in relative happiness and relative scales, but nevertheless, I think it is a fact that the last 4 years in a row, Mercer, which rates every city on a livability index across the world, has rated Hyderabad as a city with the best quality of living last 4 years in a row as the #1 city in India among all Indian cities. But, I'm not looking for you to just clap on that, but it is a fact. Our roads are crumbling. It is a fact. Our traffic is increasing, and the pollution levels in the city are definitely on the rise. Now, these three things are going to be extremely challenging for any government. So therefore, our plan is, for example, you may be aware that yesterday, in fact, Hyderabad Metro completed its first anniversary. We've had tremendous success. With Hyderabad Metro, we've had 3.2 crore people in the last 1 year ride on the metro, and I hope that number will only keep going up. And yesterday, I'm also delighted to share with many of you who live in this part of the town that Hyderabad Metro's trial run for the high-tech city also has been launched yesterday. So hopefully in December, after we come back, that will be one of the first few projects which we will inaugurate also. Public transportation, without a question, has to be a huge priority. Secondly, my challenge is, my priority also for the city is, I want to ensure that we phase out all of these more than 3,800 RTC buses, the road transportation buses, which really have become gas guzzlers and, which really throw up a lot of smoke, especially if you're riding a two-wheeler right behind it. So therefore, I want to phase out all these vehicles and make sure that Hyderabad becomes the first city in India where you have all of these road transportation vehicles completely replaced by electric vehicles. And I don't see that happening in rest of India very quickly. The last thing I'd point out, I also want to see Hyderabad as a city with minimal industrial pollution. I can't say I'll take it out completely. So in fact, a GO was issued by the government to send out all the red and orange category industries, the polluting industries, outside of the outer ring road. We are working on it. In fact, what we want to do is we just don't want to shift the problem. So we are working on setting up common effluent treatment solutions in different pockets around the ORR, then shift out these guys. So working on it. So 3 things. Make better roads by improving our drainage and sewerage. 2, make sure that Hyderabad, the pollution levels come down, industrial pollution, vehicular pollution. Number 3, make sure that you provide better public transportation. Connect Hyderabad metro to airport. Make sure you open new lines from Chandrashekar all the way to Lagdikapul so that this heavily, dense corridor also can use more metro. And then also build an elevated BRTS from all the way to Nizampet to high-tech city so that you can have an elevated bus rapid transportation system as well, where again the buses would be electric.
Excellent roadmap. The other thing, when you took power in 2014, you chose innovation as your building block for success, at least to foray into innovation as a major differentiator from anyone else in the country. And you set out on a course to build one of the largest incubators in the country. So why did you choose that direction as your first implementation in the city and the state?
How many non-Telugu speakers here actually? Okay, there are a few. The reason why I was asking is because, a lot of times you come from, you've dabbled in the movie industry and you still do. So a lot of times the movie makers, keep saying, hum kuch hatke bana rahe hain, hatke, so it's slightly different. I didn't take up innovation just to be different from the rest of the country. If you look around, when we started our journey about 4.5 years ago, the challenge was, Hyderabad as a city already had a very sizable presence of IT and IT-enabled services companies. But most of them obviously focused on services, most of them focused in, supporting their operations globally. Now the challenge was where I ended up on the second day, I don't know if Ajit is here, on the very second day of assuming office, I ended up in his office at the ISB, the Indian School of Business, at the Dean's office. I said, why don't you bring in more people so that we can all sit together and brainstorm? So he called in, the director of Triple IT and a bunch of other, thinkers and intellectuals. So the first question I asked them was this, I said, how can we differentiate Hyderabad, say from Bangalore or any other, destination within India, which is also holding a lot of promise? One of the answers I got, among the many, many ideas, many suggestions that were given, was that we need to start looking at creating more avenues for entrepreneurs. Because Indians, while we are respected for our problem-solving abilities, for our thinking abilities, for our multitasking abilities, and many other things, we're not really we don't really have decorated entrepreneurs. Satya, Sundar, they are leading some of the world's largest corporations and conglomerates in the world. But think about it, we don't really have a Zuckerberg, we don't really have a Larry Page or a Sergey, from India. So therefore we started thinking, why can't we provide an avenue? Why can't we provide an opportunity for our young guys to come and dabble in innovation? As a country, as a society as well, we tend to stifle our youngsters, when a youngster wants to do something truly different, when somebody wants to pursue an opportunity or a career in sports. In fact, this morning I met with Saina Nehwal and Kashyap. They had come down to invite me for their wedding, and I was having a chat with them, and I was trying to understand how difficult it was for them, growing up, choosing a career in sports, and how supportive their parents were. Thankfully, their parents were supportive, and that's why we have champs like them. But the fact is, Indians as a society have been very conservative. Have been very conservative when it comes to career choices. Very conservative when it comes to being, global in ambition. So therefore, we wanted to set up something which kind of gives you an opportunity to dabble in innovation. In fact, one of the things I must thank Ajit Rangareddy. One of the things he was kind enough to agree. We said, how do we trade off? Say somebody spends a couple of years in T-Hub, and then he fails or she fails. Then how can he go back to the job market and find a job? So Ajit was kind enough and he said, why we can do one thing. We can actually give them a certificate saying he was an entrepreneur in residence. And that actually helps going back to the job market as well. So we kind of came up with a formula which was tailor-made to fit India. And then we started T-Hub, which, as you know, is the country's largest incubator. But now, in fact, in about 6 months, Hyderabad will also be hosting the world's largest incubator, the phase 2 of T-Hub, which is coming up. And I hope again that we'll have the next Prime Minister come and inaugurate it. Not just anybody, but next Prime Minister come and inaugurate it. Whoever that is, I don't know. Don't ask me who it is.
So, innovation, growth of multinationals coming into the state and to the city, infrastructure in place. How does all this connect to the common man? How does it relate to the poor? How does it relate to the bottom of the pyramid? How does it add value to the common man in the state?
Well, at 2-3 levels. Our philosophy has been extremely, I won't call it extremely, but a bit socialistic. In fact, our government's philosophy has been increase the wealth of the state and start distributing as much as you can among the poor. So if you see, every single rupee we spend in Telangana today, out of which 43 paisa in fact goes towards social welfare activities. So the marginalized, the downtrodden, the people in the lowest strata, the below poverty line, they're the ones who are the target audience for us, for these 43 paisa we spent. But for you to spend 43 paisa or for you to be able to continue these social welfare programs, you also have to continue to grow your revenues. So if you look at Telangana as a state, in fact, I'm happy to share with all of you, the last 4 years have been fantastic when it comes to our state-owned tax revenues. We've been growing at an average of 17.17% year on year, last 4 years. And this is by far the highest growth rate for any state in the country. In fact, the state that comes second to us is growing at 10%. Now, where do you get the state-owned tax revenues from? There are, if you just broadly, just to give you a quick perspective, there are 4 broad heads from where you get state-owned tax revenues. 80% of a state's revenues come from 4 different heads. One, the land sales, stamp duty, registration, land, apartments, villas, how many you buy, etc., how many you purchase and how many get sold. You get a stamp duty on that, number 1. 2, you also get a lot of money on commercial taxes. Commercial taxes now, which is also called GST, goods and services. Whenever we purchase a shampoo or a soap or a paste, we end up paying a tax. Part of it we also get. Thirdly, motor vehicles. When you buy a new vehicle, you also end up paying a tax. That also comes to government's kitty. Fourthly, excise, liquor and other stuff that that also adds significantly to the state's exchequer. So 80% of a state's revenues, in fact, come from these 4 big heads. And Telangana, in fact, has been doing extremely well on all these 4 because we've been able to attract investments. What has happened in the last 4 years is, because we've been able to create, more avenues for investors to come in and invest, and we've been able to offer progressive governance, we've been able to offer an extremely hospitable environment when it comes to law and order situation. Therefore, you have all these multinationals that you mentioned choosing Hyderabad over others, because when you're making an investment destination, an investment decision, to especially picking up a destination, then you will be basically looking at multiple factors. Law and order, political stability, economic stability, growth opportunities, talent pool, etc., etc. So therefore, on all of these scales, when you start bringing in investments, it not only improves the state's health in terms of economic growth, it also provides indirect employment. For example, every single job that is created in IT sector today in Hyderabad, we have nearly 500,000 people working in Hyderabad today directly in the IT sector. When we assumed office, it was about 350,000. Now in the last 5 years, our IT exports have grown from 53,000 to about 92,000 odd crores now. And in fact, completing 5 years will cross definitely the 1 lakh crore mark. Every single job you create directly in IT, there is at least 2 to 3 indirect jobs being created in the hospitality sector, in other sectors, allied sectors in Hyderabad. So all of these obviously go to the poor that you mentioned, go to others who are looking to make a living in Hyderabad, move here, look for better opportunities, etc., etc.
Makes sense. Just a personal question. Everybody in life has a moment, an aha moment, where you tend to maybe take a different direction or think differently or choose to act differently. Do you have an aha moment in your life where, you said, what, this is it. I think I have to do this. Something that you have implemented in your political life.
Well, I think we've done reasonably well, but I don't think I've had that moment yet. I mean, you made it sound like a life-altering moment. I don't think I've had such a moment yet. But I do have another good 15-20 years left in me, hopefully. So therefore, hopefully I'll have that moment someday.
Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, share. Follow on Facebook, Google+, Twitter, Instagram. For more updates, please subscribe Great Telangana TV.